right, guys, welcome back to another episode. I am truly so excited. I've already been talking to today's guest for the last few minutes, and I don't want to put any pressure on you, Ash, but you might be like the most #famous person to come onto the Mindset podcast. Welcome.
I do not see myself as that at all. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, no pressure.
Hey.
So we're going to dive in a moment to all of the things that I'm so excited to talk to you about. Before we do, I would love to know something that you're grateful for today.
Ooh. See, what I love about your podcast is I have no idea what's coming my way. And this is the first time I've ever agreed to do a podcast where I don't know the questions coming at me. So something I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that today I had the energy to get up and shower and go and get a coffee and have the opportunity to do this podcast with you.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. It's funny how many people say coffee, especially when they're I'm so grateful for caffeine.
It took me an hour to get out of bed, so my alarm went off and I was like, I really should, but I'm just so exhausted from like a busy week last week that I was like, right, just get up, first things first, and not feel guilty about it, because I think that's a lot of thing that people do is they feel guilty about an extra hour lay-in or not being motivated to get up. But you know what, it's important that we also listen to our bodies and do what we need to do.
So true. I love that you said that. Like that self-compassion piece is so important. Especially somebody who's got, I can imagine, a schedule as hectic as yours. It could be so easy to fall into that trap of like not being productive, not achieving things, freak out. So that's
and also when you work from home, when you go from working in corporate to then working from home, there's also this guilt that you need to be doing something like every hour of the day. But sometimes it's okay to just do stuff all and just enjoy the day and take it easy.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that in my bones. Okay, so one other question I'm going to ask before we do dive in, and this is one that it's funny how this question's come to my mind. I've been doing with a lot of my clients and the women inside of Level Up Your Life. I'm really trying to encourage women all over to get into the habit of praising themselves and speaking beautifully to themselves. So the question that I have for you is, tell me one thing that you love about yourself.
Oh, this is hard. Oh, you made me like word vomit. It is a lot of people mumble over this because why is it so hard to speak? Okay, no, I'm going to say the first thing that comes to my mind is that I love that I have the ability to take the piss out of myself, and I love that I'm a bit of a dork, and I think people don't expect that from me. I think they might see that on the gram I might look like in my pictures that I live this perfect life, but I actually I'm a bit of an idiot. I can take the piss and just have a good old time. So that's what I like about myself.
I love it.
I take myself seriously.
Yeah, I can totally attest to that. The first time we spoke, I think it might have even been last year. I don't know where this year's gone. But I was like, oh, you actually are just such a real, personable, relatable human being. And I'm sure, with your famousness that people that people get that. So that leads me into my question about who is Ashleigh Jade and what do you do?
Oh, goodness. So I am an influencer / content creator. So I've been doing this for about 10 years now. I grew my online audience through pageants. So that's kind of my background where I first started. And then over the years, I was just sharing my life. I was sharing where I was traveling to, what I thought was fitness at the time, but that was actually not. So many issues underlying there. And then with the traveling, it then went on to sharing small businesses and things that I love, and then building connections with people online and in real life as well. So then it over the last year, when I've left my full-time job in corporate, I used to be a promotional casino host. I then have now been able to dive into being a content creator full-time and influencer full-time, but also an influencer coach. I realized that people weren't knowing how to reach out to influencers or work with them. And there was a day after day, I was getting emails from people asking to teach people how it is that they work with influencers, or from influencers asking like, hey, can you teach me how to do what you do? And so I was like, hang on a second, I could be tapping into this. So that's what I do now. I help other influencers, get stronger with their messaging and show up with purpose. My thing is like to show up with purpose online and in real life, because it's all well and good to, show up every day online, but you need to be able to build those connections in person as well. It's not just all online. It's about, real connections.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't realize that it had been 10 years. Like that's a long time to be in the online space. Was
Yeah.
there like a moment or a pivotal time where it went, like when did actually the word influencer become a thing? Like when did you have that moment where you're like, oh, I think I'm an influencer now?
I don't even remember when that word came about. I think it feels like around maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it was a term where everyone hated it. Everyone hated that word. Even I did. I remember one of the first online interviews that I did was with Brooke Vilunovich, and we both, as we're saying the word influencer, we're like and gagging. And I was like, I hate the term. It's so cringy. But then at the start of this year, I realized, like, hang on a second, this is what I am. If I'm going to take this seriously and be taken serious, I need to own it for myself, but also for the rest of us, so that hopefully it encourages others to then, show up and realize, hang on, no, I need to actually own this too, and not make fun of the word influencer. Yeah, you do need to own it, because that's what you are. It's the only word to describe or put a word to the meaning of what you do. And so, and I think that since showing up like that and saying, no, people, like, you have to own it now, other people have been following, which is really awesome to see. But I think in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, to answer your question.
Wow, it's crazy. And it's actually such a good segue into my question. Like, it is so important that you own it, because, and this is something I've recognized in the last year, like working in businesses and working with other influencers, it is a full-time fucking job. And
it is
very, very talented, like very talented. And I am passionate about helping you in, making that known. Like, what does it actually mean? What does a day in the life of an influencer look like? Just to sort of give people that understanding that this is a real full-time job and it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of commitment.
Yeah, well, I'll give you an example of a campaign that I literally filmed, edited, and submitted yesterday. So yesterday I got up, so it was for a hair tool brand. And so I got up, I had to wash my hair, and then I had to use the tool for the video. So I had to have wet hair, so I had to do my makeup. And it feels so weird saying this because it sounds so glamorous, and and I realize it's a very privileged job to be able to do. I'm very, very extremely grateful. But it's the hours that things take. So I had to film the whole process. So the filming process took up to an hour. Of me using the tool, talking through it, what I'm loving about it, showing the results, and then I have to then go through that footage. So I then had to go through 45 minutes of an hour of footage, then cut that down to a 30-second reel, and then a 45-second Instagram story, which is a lot to then go through, because then you have to break it down each time. So going from 45 or 60 minutes of footage to then I'd cut it again. I think I got it down to 30 minutes, and then I got it down to 10 minutes, and then I got it down to 8 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, I need this to be an IGTV.
Oh.
And then cutting it down again. So getting like the very key moments that just show. So it's the video stuff that takes a long, long time. And then I had to take photos for the cover photo and then write a caption up. I finished it all and submitted it at 11:45 last night.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's just for one sort of product. And is it like there's a few of those at once, and then you've got contracts to abide by and timelines?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll receive a contract, or it's like at the moment I've got 3-month partnerships, and this one is like a one-off thing, but I've worked with them before, and so I've already got the relationship there, which is awesome. But ones that are, even 3 month, I know, okay, so before the end of this month, I'll need to select the next items, or trial the next items, and then see how it fits into my life, take the photos, go out, work it into my life naturally and organically, and then go out, take the content, and the same process again. So it all just depends on what actually is involved with it. If it's a video, is it a photo? How is the messaging? What's the messaging in it? How does it need to be conveyed? And taking things into consideration, like how are my audience going to connect with it? There's no point in me taking something on if I don't think that, my audience are going to enjoy it or find value in it either. So it needs to be like a marriage.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So, and I guess that's like the practical side of influencing and how it actually looks in your day-to-day life. What's the more sort of personal impact? Like, obviously, if you've got such a huge following, and Perth is a small place,
Yeah.
what is it actually like for you to sort of go out in public or be at events or MC, like outside of the practical experience of the influencer and content creation? What's it like to live as an influencer?
Oh, I've never been asked this question before. Great one. Going out so I don't get people like running up to me or anything. So but then I might get messages later where people will say, I saw you, Alex and Honey, at the beach or whatever, and I'm like, why didn't you come up and say hi? Or when I used to work at the casino, people would message me saying, I saw Alex and Honey at the shop or at Bunnings, but I was too scared to say hi. And then he will tell me, oh, I think he reckons he can spot them. So he's like, I think that person's a follower. And I'm like, what do you mean? And like, I'm oblivious to it. I'm like oblivious to the, like, so, oh God, off with the fairies all the time. But he's like, nah, that person's like, they have a smile and it's their eyes do something different. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. And he's like, yeah. So I was at Bunnings today, and this person was staring at me, and like, but they was like, as soon as they saw Honey, their eyes lit up and they got all, like, you could see it in their face, and it's kind of like they want to say hi but they don't, because they forget. Sometimes people forget also that we don't know who they are, but they know who we are. So there's also that's the only time where it's a bit awkward, because people will come up and I think, well, where were we? We were somewhere, and someone come up behind me and like grab me, and that's like quite a trigger for me. And I was like, what the fuck? And like and they're like, oh my God, I follow you on Instagram. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, that's scary.
And I was like, that's really lovely, but you scared the shit out of me. But we had a good laugh. But it's just, maybe just don't like run up to people and do that from behind. I've had bad experiences in the past, but yeah, like we had a good chat, and yeah, it's fine. But again, like not knowing, like people don't realize, like, oh, that I don't know who you are, because even though we might chat down in the DMs, your profile like picture is so teeny tiny that I don't have a memory bank that stores every single person that I engage with on Instagram. So like, even like people that you choose to follow, like sometimes I'm like, I don't know who this kid belongs to, because I'm following like 10, 20 mum accounts. I'm like, I don't know whose kid this is.
Yeah,
so that can be, so it's like trying to keep up with who's who, and like I try to do my absolute best. But yeah, I'm always up for a chat. Events can be full on. Events I need to like they can be quite an energy zapper, because there's a lot of energies in the room. You want to make sure that you're talking to as many people as you can, and people also get the opportunity to chat with me, so that they want to get that time. So I want to be mindful that I am giving people a substantial amount of time, and no one feels like I've like neglected them. So there's like that as well, like trying to balance that I find that a bit of a struggle.
Wow. And I guess, how does that actually, I'm just trying to put myself in your shoes, and I'm thinking like it would be quite difficult to go out and then have messages every time you've gone out that said, oh my gosh, I saw you. But if they haven't come to say hi, does that trigger like any sort of anxiety, or like, oh gosh, are people looking at me? Like, is it quite difficult to remain confident wherever you are?
Yeah, sometimes like you might feel like I can't have a bad day. I used to really struggle with that. Now I'm like, like people, I'm very transparent now. I think when I used to work in my old job, I had to water down who I was and really like I was very paranoid. I was very paranoid that patrons would see. It was more patrons because or like the staff but and because they'd all like follow me as well um and so when I would when I'd go out I would be worried about if I looked sad or if I was having an off day. I'm like, oh my God, I would hate for someone to look over at me and be like, well, I would have come up but you look like you haven't, like you looked like a bitch. And it's like you
Yeah.
that might just be my resting bitch face today. But people forget, like, you're going on an Instagram story for maybe 45 seconds doing a talking to story, but that's like teeny tiny seconds of your day. And who really walks around smiling all day? Like, one, that's exhausting. You know what, like, how people might say to you in a passing comment, oh, why don't you smile for once? It's kind of like, what person do you see walking around like a smile? If someone was doing that, I'd be like, what the heck's wrong with them? Your face will ache. Like,
So true.
that's so like I want to be mindful of like I always want to look approachable, but also there might be times where I am out and I'm not in a good mood. I'm like having a bad day, and I think it's important to remember like we're all just human, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that would be really, yeah, I'm glad that you've sort of come a long way with that, because that sounds horrible, going out being paranoid. Or wanting to just chuck your hair into a bun and wear your tracky dacks out and about. I'm sure that.
Yeah, there was a stage where I would never go out in public without makeup on. Like today, I literally just have a tint of moisturizer on talking to you. But in the past, I know that I would have made sure that my hair was completely curled and full face of makeup. But now I've learned to accept that I can just show up as me, and whether that's with makeup or without, and that's okay. And that I don't have to impress people. People know who I am. And yeah, so that it took me a while to get there.
Yeah, I can only imagine, especially on a sort of platform where everything is aesthetic, and it's largely a visual platform, and it's about how you look and how beautiful you can make products or yourself look. Have you sort of gone through any of your own journey or personal development in your journey of loving yourself, accepting yourself, your body? You mentioned before, like, your fitness journey in itself was one that was originally not so healthy. Can you just give me a little bit speak to that? What's been your journey there?
Yeah, so having an online following where I was doing pageants, and I realized, I don't want to be doing this forever. I'm not going to be doing this forever. And that was actually to answer one of your very first questions. When I turned to be an influencer was around 4 years ago, when I was like, okay, I'm not going to be doing pageants for a long time, and it's probably going to come up soon. So I need to figure out like what it is that I'm going to do next. And I saw other people doing this full time or like making it their life. I'm like, how do they do that? They can do it. My husband's a photographer. Like, of course we can make this happen. So I had to think long term and think, okay, I need to change the way that I'm posting and showing up online, and be more lifestyle and personal based rather than like pageants and bikini. Like, no one wants to see tits and ass shots every single day.
I think
Like, that's just
smart.
yeah, exactly. And that's not who I wanted to attract. So back then is when I had to change the way that I was posting. But it was also, I was struggling with my body. Like, I was always in a competition with myself, because when you're in an industry that is like, I'm literally going on stage and being judged for my appearance, right? Like, that's what it comes down to. The categories are your grooming and deportment, the way that you hold yourself, and do you look like you're having a good time on stage? Are you fit? How does your bikini fit you? And so on comp days or leading up to it, I wouldn't eat, or I would buy a bag of lollies and I would eat a lolly an hour of the day of the competition. And yeah, and just have that to get a little hit of energy, because I wanted to look, fit, I guess fit, but really I was actually doing so much damage to my body, and that wasn't a happy life for me. I was miserable, I was short-tempered, I would have an attitude problem on the day of, like, I wasn't sleeping right. And yeah, and I realized that this is going to have a long-term effect on me if I don't change my lifestyle now. And like I had great times in the pageant days. It has enabled me to travel the world. You know, I never came from money or anything. So me winning pageants was my way of traveling. Every pageant I've won is because every traveling bit that I've done is basically because I've won a comp. Yeah, so for me, I was like, I get to live, that's my dream. Like I get to do that. So I'm so grateful and the opportunities that have come from it. But yeah, I really would struggle because I'm like, oh my God, like I don't feel like fit enough as to what I looked at this last comp, or I was my best in 2013 and now I'm like 5 kilos heavier or whatever. And like I don't measure myself anymore. I don't look back at that anymore. But it took a long time. It took a lot of I used to go to Dr. Kat's workshops. So it was when I went to it was a 2-day workshop with her a couple of years ago. I went with my best friend Christy, and that was groundbreaking for me. And I remember I just got in my car with her and I cried and I cried and I cried. And I'm like getting emotional thinking back to that now, because that was a real pivotal moment for me. I realized I thought that what I was doing to my body was normal and that other people were doing that too. And then hearing her talk about her story and breaking like down what you're actually meant to be feeding your body, how the lack of sleep that you have affects your life. And I was like, oh my God, I've been depriving my body of love and nutrients and simple things that I could be doing each day to feel better about myself. And I'm like, oh my God, I've just been depriving myself of living a free life. And so I kept like every time a workshop would come up, I'd book in and I would go to it because I realized like I need help. And it was a long journey, and it's quite confronting as well to go through all of that. But I'm grateful that, you know, those low moments I had have helped me now to work through that self-love a bit, you know.
Yeah, and it's so important too, because like, yes, you do have influence and we need more people like yourself to be spreading messages about self-love and body acceptance and all of that stuff. Do you have any sort of particular practices or even morning routines or anything that really helped you move from that place of like restriction and I guess self-loathing to love? Like, what did you do?
I found things that actually made me happy. So I would, you know, go to boxing, I think 5 times a week. I would go because I was also doing Miss Universe. So, you know, you need to, the pressure was there to be as fit as anything for that. So I did that a couple of times. And so I used to, go personal training. I would go to boxing. I would just put my body through these unrealistic regimes and even finish a graveyard shift at the casino and then go straight to Jacob's Ladder. And so I'm like, how the hell, and do that, like smash that out a couple of times. Your body's literally running on nothing. I found things that actually make me happy. So I found Extend Bar through Dr. Kat again. She had a workshop. I was so scared to go into that class, but I had so much fun. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually enjoying this. I feel present. It's not full on and hardcore. I don't feel anxious going to these classes. Whereas I think when you go to, you know, boxing or personal training, it can be like, like all this energy and hardcore and full on. I'm like, no wonder why I feel anxious all the goddamn time. And now it just, finding something like that is very soft, it's very feminine. And I've been going and doing that for like 3 or 4 years now. Oh my God, that's my dog going crazy. And just little things, like I don't really necessarily have a routine as such. I try to do things for myself that I enjoy. I would like to have a routine, but it depends on what I have on, to be real.
Yeah, for sure. And then
I was just going to say, I was doing journaling for a while, and then again, I start it and then I stop, or I'm not in the mood. But I do love listening to podcasts. Like I love listening to podcasts while I get ready. Actually doing things like I said to my husband the other week, just even sometimes just sitting down and doing my hair and makeup is very therapeutic to me, because I'm focused on one thing and I'm doing something with my hands and I'm enjoying the process because I'm completely zoning out. Whereas when your job revolves around being online and being on your phone or being attached to a computer, that can zonk your energy quite a lot. So yeah, doing something where I'm using my hands or doing something where it, like with crafts or something, it helps me connect with my inner child again, and that's really, it lights me up. I don't know, it just like brings something out in me again.
Yeah, it makes so much sense because, you know, when we're anxious, we're living usually in the future somewhere. And all
Yeah,
practices where we're using our hands, even if it is curling your hair, you're present. Like you can't
yeah,
be in the future, you're just in the present. So that's
yeah,
really, really cool.
exactly.
I'd love to know, have you had any, like, I'm sure you have, but any bullying, online bullying, any experiences where it's just been really quite hard for yourself?
Do you know what? To answer your question, I have been extremely lucky
Yeah.
and have never really been trolled. I've received stupid comments that I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, or you know, when people write things where it's like they want that, it's kind of like they're having a dig, but they're not, but they're trying to disguise it as faux concern, you know?
Oh
And
gosh.
that annoys me more. But it's very rare. I don't know, maybe I'm not controversial enough. But I've been quite lucky. I've had bullying in my life. And I think we've all experienced it, and maybe we've also been a part of it. I know I wasn't the perfect person growing up, and I've made some stupid choices in my teen years. But I think, yeah, like growing up more in the online space, it's, I don't know, like I've been fairly lucky to not get trolled as such. Yeah.
That's very lucky. I see some of the things online and I just think like, what the actual F is wrong with people? Like
Yeah.
hurt,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, fucked up. Some people are just so hurt that, you know, they project that pain onto other people, and that's sad for them. But I'm glad
Yeah. I did recently, about 2 months ago, there was one person that just must be really triggered by the fact that I have hair extensions now. And so every post or DM, she was writing to me saying, ew, your hair extensions look so fake. Ew, so flimsy and floppy. And I was like, okay, like so triggered. But what makes it, what is it about me or my hair extensions that makes you so damn triggered that you have to go to the extreme lengths of creating a fake account, actually multiple, because they were like coming in one after the other, and I was like, calm down. And then to then get that message out there, like you're projecting that for 0.1 of a second, and then it's released, and then do you go on and feel better about your day? Like I'm so curious into the minds of how, like, of the minds of how they work, you know, like it just makes no sense to me. I could never bloody do that to somebody. And I do see other people online getting trolled, and it's sick. There's something not right. And like to go to those extreme lengths, it's just beyond me. I don't understand it. But yeah. I also found the hair extension thing quite funny. And I did make a video about there was a trend making inspirational quotes about hurtful things that people have said, and I actually struggled to come up with some, but then I did remember some, so I was like, okay. And also, like, I can't win, so I have always had dark hair. Back in my comp days, I always had long dark hair. I had extensions for 10 years. I used to hide under my hair. Then when I got married, I took them out 3 months later, went back blonde. Blonde is my natural color. And then everyone's like, you should go back dark. You should put your extensions back in. So I was like, no, you know what? Stuff you. I'm not going to do what you say. I'm going to wear my hair how I want. This is how Alex met me, and this is what he's getting. And then I had my hair natural for 3 years. And then I just this year go put hair extensions in. You should go back short again. And it's like, you can't win. Like, and also, patrons at the casino used to say this to me, and it just would bug me so much because they're pretty savage. And so they'd say, no, you should go back dark. And I said, okay, so how about the next time when I'm getting my hair done, you want to give me your phone number? If I give you a call and call you and consult you before I get my hair done and ask, hey, do you mind if I cut my hair today, or just keep it dark, or can I go blonde? Is that okay with you? Should I call you and make that decision? And they get a bit like taken back because I put it to them. So I can be a bit of a smart ass that people don't expect. So maybe that's why I don't get trolled so much, because I come back. Like I don't tolerate shit. And I think people get that. But also, you know, I have a really nice community. I built a really nice community. I had really decent people. I think, what you put out, you attract, and I'm not an asshole to people. And so
That's
and
true.
so I don't know. I'm really grateful for my online community. They're bloody amazing, and they check in, and they're really supportive. And yeah, they're just really lovely. I wish we could all have a big party.
That would be a
Oh, that was like that scene in Mean Girls where she's like, she doesn't even go here.
I love Mean Girls. Which Mean Girl would you be from the movie? Which one is your vibe?
Oh, what's her name? Karen, the one that's like, and a mouse, duh.
Is that the dumb blonde one? Like, I think it's raining.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So good.
I think like I pretty much quote her at least a couple of times a week. She's just great.
So good.
What one would you be?
Oh, probably Katie. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I used to be an English teacher actually, and my favorite thing ever, we used to do the analysis of Mean Girls just to look at like stereotypes and bitchiness and all of that. And it's so, I don't care how old Mean Girls gets, you can see the clickiness in every high school year group and outside of high school. We grow up,
for sure.
It still exists, and now it's online. You can see it.
Yeah.
Easy.
So
you've obviously done a very good job of understanding like how to put up a bit of a protective wall and drop that fear, like fear people are judging, fear of what people are, saying about you. How have you managed to do that? Because you've got this really great, maybe it's humor, you've put some humor on everything, but how do you do that? And if there's anybody that's listening who's like, I'm just so afraid of what people say about me and I'm so scared of judgment, how do you sort of move through that?
I realize that it's such a limiting way to live. If you live out of fear each day, it's so restricting. It stops you from showing up at all. It stops you showing up and doing the things that set your light and get you excited. And why should you stop yourself from doing something because you're worried about what someone may think? People aren't going to like everything that you do. Stuff them. Who cares? Because they're off doing their things and you might not like everything that they do. But if you know them, whether you don't know them, it doesn't matter because you should be able to do whatever the heck you like.
Yeah. Yes, mic drop. Just live your best life.
Yeah. And I think I reached a point where I was like, I just don't care. Like I don't have to answer to anybody. I think a big moment as well, like I used to be vegan, and I remember I was actually talking about this over the weekend with someone, that when I was vegan, there were Facebook groups and people would even come to me on Instagram, and that was probably the only time I was ever trolled, was when I was vegan. And they'd be like, I can't believe you're about to marry someone who's a meat eater. That's disgusting. And I was like, this is fucked. Like, and I was like, I'm not explaining anything to anyone. I don't have to. So I'm just going to live my life. And so I was like, I'm not sharing what I do. Like, if I start consulting everyone with everything I do and every decision I make, it's exhausting. And the upkeep is draining. And it's just, no, I get to do what I want to do. No one gets to dictate to me anything. And that's like how you should live your life too. Like, don't allow others to walk all over you. Stuff that.
That's so powerful. And I guess like the more you know who you are, the more like when you know who you are, it's a lot easier to be that version of yourself instead of the person that everybody thinks that you should be.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's so freeing, honestly. Like, and it does take a bit of work. And if you're prepared to do the work to get there, it's life-changing. Change the people that you hang around with. If they're not making you feel good about yourself, if they are limiting you and holding you back, that can also impact the way that you show up in the world. If there's relationships that are toxic, that are bringing you down, like find a way to exit it. Find people that inspire, encourage, uplift you. It completely changes your lifestyle.
Totally agree with that. That's amazing. Just a very quick one to shift gears, since you are the content queen. And I know a lot of the humans that are listening, a lot of them are actually business owners. So what would you say are some top little nuggets of gold, top tips for actually growing your Instagram?
Oh, this is a great question. A lot of people hide behind their logo. So if you
Mm.
are a business and you hide behind your logo, I actually unfollowed someone after a year because I actually didn't know who they were. And then at the event that I went to last week, they were one of the speakers and they were so freaking funny. I instantly went back in and I was like, I didn't know that that was her. And so I followed her again because I was like, I had no idea that this was you. And it just shows that we need to connect to humans, and so you need to show up. People might think, oh, I'm too scared, like no one cares what I have to say. Trust me, we do. And anything that's behind the scenes content, people froth over. Like if you go onto TikTok, it's the behind the scenes content that just goes off. Showing it from a bird's eye point of view. So also using reels. Like if you're not using reels, if people say, I don't know how, try. Because we all don't know how to do something when we first start off, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You just got to give it a go, and you start to learn. My first reels, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, I'll just throw some stuff up to get something out there, and then I found the swing of it over time, and now I have like my structure of how I like to do things. But reels can really take off, and they have such a large impact for your business. The reach is insane. If you have 1,000 followers on your page, but your reel gets 5,000 views, like how amazing is that? That's 5,000 people that didn't know about your business. Whereas your posts may only reach your audience and maybe a trickle of people onto the explore page or the hashtags, you know? So there's all these things that you could be doing, showing us a bird's eye view on how you do something, whether it's processing an order, keeping confidentiality in mind, how you make something in your day, like anything behind the scenes, bird's eye view, turning that into like little micro topics and then putting it out into content and showing us to connect with you. Yeah. And yeah, showing up consistently. Obviously, if you're only doing one post a week, we can't rely on when you're going to show up. We don't know whether your business is actually going. Is it just, but also I would even consider maybe getting some ambassadors or enthusiasts on board. So if you have these diehard customers that kind of are like micro influencers that are just starting out, but they buy everything that you put out, they love your products, they share about it anyway, get them on board as an enthusiast, offer them a discount code. That's a generous discount code, and they'll share that with their friends and family, and then they'll be buying more, they'll be sharing it more, and then you're going to get content from them. So make an agreement and be like, oh, we'd love to offer you this if you can give us X amount. And the value needs to be like you love their content, that it suits your page as well, and so that you're repurposing that content. So you may be getting them a discount code, but you're also getting promotion in exchange, and also you're getting content to use for your own page.
That's so clever. I love that. That's so good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
What we're going to do is shift gears before I let you go and relax and have your milkshakes, because I know you're excited about milkshakes after this. What I'd like to do is just a few, actually, before I get to my rapid fire questions, there was something that we were talking about before. Record. Now, you said it was something to do with manifestation and mindset, and I want to know what you were going to tell me.
Oh, yeah. So at the start of the year, instead of writing a vision board or whatever, I was like, oh, that takes too much time. I'm just going to buy cute little Post-it notes and write things that I would like to achieve. I didn't put a time frame on it, but on this particular one, I did. But even though it wasn't in that time frame, we locked it in within the time frame. So what I did was I wrote the things I would like to do on Post-it notes, and one of them, which what does it say? So I have them pinned up. The left side has the ones that I've achieved. The ones that haven't yet been done are on the right hand side, and one says be on 3 podcasts within the next 6 months, and you're my 3rd podcast.
Oh yay, we did it. I love that, and I love that idea of like changing it to the left or right depending on what has or has not manifested yet. That's so good. Love it.
So everything, and also all the stuff that's on the right hand side, like fire has already ignited on those. So every single thing on that, there's been a stepping stone towards it. Like things are already happening to get that ball rolling. So it's just having something there in front of you every day that reminds me, okay, this is something that I would love to get done. But yeah, being on a podcast, I used to avoid interviews. I used to avoid podcasts or anything because I was just so paranoid about my stories being spun differently or screwing up on my words or whatever. Now I realize that that's okay. And I stumble on my words all the damn time. And people actually prefer it because it just shows that, I'm human. And I don't want to sound like a robot or anything, but I just also would find them very draining. Whereas like this has been amazing. I feel like it's just an easygoing conversation. Yeah, it's fun. And so changing the mindset around that too. But yeah, you're my third podcast. Yeah.
That's so cool. Are you how do I ask this? How do you feel about the word manifestation?
It's hard to say. I don't know, like I don't really preach it. I don't like Bible, like live by it or anything, I'm open to it. I'm a little bit woo-woo here and there where I see fit to me. But yeah, like I mean it seems to work. I'm a believer in you bring about what you think about. That's one of my life mottos.
I love
And
that.
yeah, and I reckon that so back in January last year, when I wanted to leave my full-time job, I made that happen by putting it out there. And even though it didn't happen the way that I would have liked for it to happen, it ended up working out in my favor and being a blessing in disguise. So yeah.
I love that. I've never heard that quote. You bring about what you think about. And that's ultimately what manifestation is. Your thoughts and your energy controls your reality. I love it. And
yeah.
Like some people do have vision boards, but I love that idea of post-it notes and a left-hand side, a right-hand side, and what you're calling in, what's happened and what's still coming.
Yeah. And to see it still, not to trash it and put it in the bin, to be like, hell yeah, like, look what I've actually done this year, and not putting that pressure on myself and being okay with, if it doesn't happen, that's okay, because, there's always more time, and not feeling guilty about that.
Yeah, so good. Love it. All right, rapid fire. So just whatever comes to your mind quickly.
Okay.
You look nervous. You're like, fuck it. I'll ask some simple ones, okay?
Okay.
So first question, if you could have a dinner date with anybody, dead or alive, who would you choose and why?
Britney Spears, to find out what her life has really been like in her conservatorship.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Free
that.
Britney.
Love it. Favorite podcast, book, or resource? Something that's really been quite transformational in your life.
Ooh. Well, I don't read and I only listen to podcasts, but I listen to podcasts to zone out from the world and to enjoy, and that's kind of how I fill my cup up. So I'm going to say Life Uncut, because I've learned so much in that. It's not like like a very educational, but it's more fun. And I mean, they get special guests on and I do learn stuff from it, but it's just the podcast that I must tune into every single week.
Yeah, good. Love that one. You've just been $1 billion has just gone into your account. What's the first thing that you do?
Investigate it and be like, what the hell? What has happened? And is this actually mine? And what's the mistake? I have a fear of like doing something wrong, and so I would be like, I can't touch that. That's not mine.
That's not what I was expecting. Let's say that it is yours. So you've just won the lotto.
Okay.
You've won the lotto. First thing you'd buy, first thing you'd do.
I would buy Alexander a Sprinter, a van, and deck it out, because even though we bought a van, he wants to rip out everything and start again. And we realized it's quite small, but it was kind of our dummy van. So we want to eventually have a bigger one and be able to travel in that. So we would get a very livable van, and travel in that where we could and document it. And I would love to have like a film crew, not a film crew, but I'm all about helping other creatives, and so I would get someone on board to film it and make YouTube videos, and then use money to then put it back into small businesses. So we would like video us going and like experiencing these places and sharing more about it. So kind of making my own reality little getaway show. That would be fun.
That would be good. And the sprinter, we've obviously got a van, which is what we've bonded over before. We did a trip in our little like test van last month, and honestly, we saw so many sprinters all over Australia, and they're like home. It's just traveling around in a home.
Yeah, it's amazing. And that's what I want. I want to be able to just pack up and be like, see ya.
Bye. And you can still do influencing. It would probably go off. In fact, I bet your reach would just go through the roof.
Every time I put, absolutely. Every time I put anything, and it's very rare now that I think I've done 2 van posts on my page, and they've been the most engaged with posts. But then every time I put something up with the van, whether it's showing what Alex has done or if I'm helping, people are like, oh my God, and it just goes off. And we do have an Instagram page for our travel page, but we've done 1 post to it and it's called The Useless Travelers, and we're that useless that we haven't posted to it, but we have all the content.
It's going to be amazing to watch. It's so, and I think that just shows, doesn't that just show us, like, I think most human beings are really craving some freedom, and travel's just one way that we all love to do that. So I can't wait to watch you guys do that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Last question for you, and then you can go and enjoy your milkshakes. What's the one piece of advice that you would give to the younger version of you on your darkest of days?
Oh, I wish I was prepared for this. Wow. You're not alone, and that life is so worth living. I've been in a dark place where I didn't see that, and I thought that no one loves me, I have nothing to live for, and it's a really scary place to be. And there is always light at the end of the tunnel, so just make sure that you are surrounding yourself around people who are loving and supportive, maybe even having a special code that, because sometimes it is really hard to say, hey, I'm not doing okay. Maybe coming up with a little tagline that, or an emoji that you can just text to your friend to start that conversation, to let them know that, hey, I actually need you right now. No questions, no anything, just please be here for me. So always surround yourself with people that are loving and supportive, and know you're not alone.
That's beautiful. I love it so much. Thank you so much for being here. That's been an amazing chat. I feel like I could talk to you for hours, because you are a dork in the most loving way. I think you're great.
Oh, thanks, girl. We should do part 2, because this was like the easiest podcast ever. It's just like chatting. I'm still so sweaty. Do you get really sweaty? You're so calm. I'm like, my back is wet.
No, I definitely get the sweats. I still get a bit nervous even when I'm recording on my own. I'm still like, and then I just hit record and it just kind of flows.
Yeah, and it's been so fun, but it's still, I think, do you know why? It's because you care. And it's the excitement of it all happening, and it's like, lights, camera, action, but woo, we get to do this, and it's just this adrenaline for an hour. It's so fun, and sweaty.
Yeah, you go have a shower, get rid of the sweat, and then enjoy your milkshake.
Thank you so much for having me.
No worries.
It's been so fun.
Bye.